The metal doors of the transport ship opened wide and cold air rushed out like a storm. Commander Park Min-ae stood at the edge of the ramp and looked down at the world below. Karath 7 was not what she expected. The sky was a strange orange color, and dark clouds hung over mountains that looked like broken teeth. Lightning struck the ground far away, and the sound came a few seconds later. Everything felt wrong and dangerous. Park Min-ae took a deep breath. Behind her, 5,000 people waited. These were the people that the Vexian Collective said were problems. They were soldiers, scientists, workers, and families. All of them had been put on this ship and told they would never go home again. This was their punishment. The Vexian Council had decided that humans were too difficult to control, too creative, and too stubborn. So they decided to send them all to a world where no one could survive. "Commander," a voice called out. It was Kang Tae-o, the chief engineer. He was a tall man with strong shoulders and smart eyes. He walked up beside Park Min-ae and stared at the dead world below them. "It looks worse than the report said." Park Min-ae nodded slowly. The reports from the Vexian scientists had been very clear. Karath 7 was a planet with acid rain, volcanoes that never stopped burning, and air that would poison anyone who breathed it without protection. The temperature changed from burning hot to freezing cold. There was almost no water that was safe to drink. Almost nothing could live here. That was the whole point. The Vexians wanted the humans to die slowly on this dead planet. "It looks exactly like what they promised," Park Min-ae said. Her voice was calm, but inside her heart was beating fast. "We have supplies for 6 months. After that, we need to find a way to survive, or we will all die." Kang Tae-o looked at her with new respect. Most commanders would have given up before they even started. Most people would be screaming in fear right now. But Park Min-ae was not like most people. Over the next few hours, the transport ship brought down all the supplies and equipment. Machines for building, tools for farming, medicine, water, and food in boxes. They moved everything to a safe area near the base of a large mountain. Park Min-ae watched her people work together. Some of them were crying, some of them were angry, but they all kept working. They were humans, and humans could survive anywhere. As night came, the sky turned a deeper orange. The temperature dropped quickly. Park Min-ae called everyone together near the supply area. There were 5,000 faces looking at her, waiting for words that would make everything okay. But nothing was okay. They were on a dead world with 5,000 people and 6 months of supplies. "Listen to me," Park Min-ae said, her voice strong and clear. "The Vexians think we will die here. They sent us here to die. But I do not plan to die. And I do not plan to let any of you die if I can help it. We are humans. We survived ice ages. We crossed oceans. We built cities. We can survive this too." Some people started to nod. Hope was a small thing, but it was something. The next morning, Park Min-ae met with her closest people. Besides Kang Tae-o, there was Im Ji-woo, a brilliant biologist who could understand how living things worked. There was Lee Ha-na, a woman who was very good at talking to people and solving problems, and there was young Choi Min-jun, a scientist who was not afraid to try new things and take risks. "We need to understand this planet," Park Min-ae told them. "We need to learn what we can use and what will kill us. Kang Tae-o, I want you to study the soil and the rock. Maybe we can build shelters from the materials here. Im Ji-woo, I want you to look at every living thing on this planet. What can we eat? What can we use? Lee Ha-na, you will help me organize the people and make plans. Choi Min-jun, I want you to study the atmosphere. Can we find ways to make the air breathable?" Everyone agreed. They understood that this was their only chance. For weeks, the groups worked hard. Kang Tae-o discovered that the rocks and soil had many useful materials. The acid rain had broken down minerals that could be used to make stronger buildings. The volcanic ash could be mixed with water to create strong material like concrete. It was hard work, but it was possible. M.G. Wu found that many plants and animals on Karath 7 were poisonous, but some plants had flowers that glowed in the dark and produced oxygen when the sun went down. Some underground creatures had shells that were not hurt by the acid. Maybe they could be raised as food animals. Maybe they could be studied to make new medicines. Li Hana worked with the people to keep them moving forward. When someone felt hopeless, she talked to them. When people fought, she helped them find peace. She organized the work teams and made sure everyone had a job to do. When people had jobs to do, they felt like they had a purpose. Choi Min-jun made an exciting discovery. High up in the sky, the clouds and the upper atmosphere were cleaner. The toxic gases were heavier and stayed lower. Near the ground, if people got high enough on mountains or under dense jungles where the leaves filtered the air, they could actually breathe without masks. It would not be easy, but it was possible. They did not have to stay trapped in their protective suits forever. After 2 months, Park Min-ae decided it was time to build a real settlement. They chose a place near mountains where a jungle grew thick and the air was cleaner. The mountains would protect them from some of the worst storms. The jungle would filter the air and maybe provide food and materials. Kang Tao's team began building with the special concrete made from volcanic ash. The structures rose from the ground like New Hope. They named the settlement New Horizon. It was a name that said they were looking toward the future, not toward death. Park Min-ae stood in the center of the growing settlement one evening and watched her people work. Children ran between the buildings. Adults mixed concrete. Scientists measured the air and studied plants. Everyone had a reason to keep going. The Vexian Council had sent them here to die. But humans did not give up. Humans found ways. Humans built things. Humans worked together when they faced danger. Park Min-ae smiled at the orange sky and the broken mountains. Karath 7 was a terrible world, but it was their world now, and they would learn to live in it. As the sun went down behind the mountains, Park Min-ae made a promise to herself. They would not just survive on Karath 7, they would thrive. They would create something so remarkable that the entire galaxy would know the name New Horizon, and remember that humanity could never truly be broken. 2 years had passed since the transport ship left Karath 7. The settlement of New Horizon had grown from a desperate collection of temporary shelters into a real town. The buildings were stronger now, made from the special concrete that Kang Tao had developed. They had created greenhouses where food grew under carefully controlled light and temperature. The population had grown to 15,000 people. Humans were being born in New Horizon. Children who had never seen Earth were learning to walk under the orange sky. Kang Tao walked through the central workshop, checking on the new machines his team had built. His hands were covered in dust and grease. He had lost weight during the first year, but he had gained something else. He had gained purpose. On Earth, he had been just another engineer. Here, every machine he built meant the difference between life and death for thousands of people. The latest project was a mineral harvester. The acidic soil that was supposed to poison them was actually full of valuable materials. If they could extract these minerals safely, they could build better tools, stronger structures, and even materials for medicine. The harvester worked by using a special chemical process that Kang Tao had invented. It was not perfect, but it worked. "It is beautiful," a voice said behind him. It was Park Min-ae. She looked different now than she had 2 years ago. Her hair had some gray in it, and her face had deep lines from stress and sun, but her eyes still burned with the same determination. "It will be beautiful when it actually works," Kang Tao said with a tired smile. "Right now, it just looks like a collection of broken parts." Park Min-ae put her hand on the machine. Everything we have built here started as broken parts, she said. We just learned to put them together in new ways. In another building, Im Ji-woo sat in his laboratory and studied specimens through a microscope. He had become obsessed with understanding Karath 7's life. He had filled entire notebooks with drawings and notes about creatures and plants. Some of his discoveries were strange and wonderful. Recently, he had found a type of plant that produced a chemical which could slow down the growth of infections. Another plant had roots that could actually clean water by filtering out the worst poisons. A small creature that looked like a cross between a crab and a lizard had a shell that could survive for hours in pure acid. Maybe they could use it for armor or protection. Maybe they could breed them for food. Commander Park wants to see you, an assistant told Im Ji-woo. She says it is important. Im Ji-woo cleaned his hands and made his way to Park Min-ae's office. Lee Ha-na was already there, looking worried about something. We have a problem, Park Min-ae said without waiting for greetings. One of the deep exploration teams found something. They went down into a canyon near the eastern mountains. They were mapping the area for possible settlement locations, and they found something that looks like well, we are not sure what it is. Come and look. She showed them a video recording that one of the team members had taken. It showed massive creatures moving through the canyon. They were easily 50 meters long, with thick, armored skin that looked almost black. They moved slowly, and they made sounds that were very deep and very loud. When the sound came, the ground shook. What are they? Lee Ha-na asked. The report said there were no large animals on Karath 7. The Vexian reports were wrong, Im Ji-woo said. His voice shook with excitement. Or maybe these creatures are so adapted to the underground that they were never noticed. They are incredible. Look at that armor. Look at the way they move. Park Min-ae was not excited. She was thinking like a military commander. Are they dangerous? She asked. We do not know, Im Ji-woo said. But they are clearly intelligent. Did you see how the one on the left noticed the camera? It did not attack. It investigated. Choi Min-jun, the young scientist, became the lead explorer of this mystery. Over the next few weeks, he went into the canyons many times. He studied the creatures, which seemed to have a social structure. They moved together in groups. Sometimes they made complex sound patterns to each other. Slowly, Choi Min-jun realized something amazing. These creatures were not just living together by accident. They were communicating. They had language. We should try to communicate with them, Choi Min-jun told Park Min-ae. How do you communicate with a creature 50 meters long that could crush your settlement? Park Min-ae asked. Very carefully, Choi Min-jun said. With sound. They clearly use sound to talk to each other. Maybe we can make similar sounds. It took weeks of planning and preparation. Finally, they set up equipment in a canyon where Choi Min-jun had observed the creatures before. They made a deep sound, copying the frequency and pattern of the creature sounds. Nothing happened for a long time. Then, in the distance, they heard an answer. The creatures came closer. Park Min-ae watched from a safe distance, ready to order an evacuation. But Choi Min-jun stood his ground. The largest creature came to the edge of the canyon and looked down at the humans. Its head was larger than a house. One of its eyes focused on Choi Min-jun. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Choi Min-jun made the sound again. The creature made a sound back, and slowly, carefully, a conversation began. It was not words. It was sounds and patterns, but it was definitely communication. From that day on, the creatures, which the humans started calling Krathvor, became part of New Horizons' world. The humans learned to predict where the Krathvor would move. The Krathvor seemed to understand that the humans meant no harm. Sometimes they found Krathvor had moved rocks out of the way where humans needed to build. Sometimes humans left food in certain areas and found the Krathvor had left something useful in return. But not everyone was happy about this peace with the Krathvor. A man named Han Dae-jung, who had been a military officer before the exile, gathered followers around him. He wanted New Horizon to be stronger, more aggressive. He wanted to expand quickly and take over more land. He wanted humans to be dominant on Karath 7. "We should not trust these creatures," Han Dae-jung said in meetings. "We should build walls and weapons. We should make sure we are the strongest power on this world." Park Min-ae disagreed. "We are strong because we can adapt," she said. "We are strong because we can learn. We are strong because we can work with the Krathvor instead of fighting them." The argument between these two visions of New Horizons' future grew stronger. But for now, Park Min-ae's vision was winning. The settlement continued to grow. Food production improved. The air was cleaner near the ground than they had ever expected. Life was becoming not just possible, but almost normal. Im Ji-woo made a new discovery. The plants and creatures of Karath 7 were not trying to kill humans. They were just living their lives. If humans learned the planet's rules and worked with them instead of against them, they could build something real here. 2 years after arrival, Park Min-ae stood in the main plaza of New Horizon and watched her people walk past. They looked healthy. They looked hopeful. They looked like humans who belonged somewhere. The orange sky no longer seemed wrong. The broken mountains no longer seemed like a prison. They seemed like home. And in the canyons beyond the settlement, the Krathvor moved through their world, sharing the planet peacefully with the humans who had been sent here to die. The Vexian scout ship came without warning. One moment, New Horizons sensors detected nothing in space. The next moment, a sleek, dark vessel appeared in orbit above Karath 7. It was small and fast, designed to observe and report, not to fight. The humans of New Horizon had not seen a Vexian ship since they had been dropped here 5 years ago. Park Min-ae was in the main command center when the alert came. Her heart jumped. She had spent 5 years trying not to think about the Vexian collective. She had been trying to convince herself that this world was enough, that Karath 7 was home, that they did not need anything from the people who had sent them here to die. "They are not attacking," the communication officer reported. "They are not even sending any messages. They are just observing." Within hours, the scout ship sent down a small landing vehicle. 6 Vexian soldiers came out, their weapons ready but not pointed at anyone. They looked around at New Horizon with expressions of complete shock. They had come expecting to find skeletons and ruins. Instead, they found a functioning town. They saw buildings that had been carefully designed. They saw humans working together. They saw crops growing in greenhouses. They saw no death. They saw no failure. The lead Vexian was a tall officer named Vex Tall. He walked through the streets of New Horizon like he was dreaming. He saw humans working with machinery that had been built from Karath 7's own materials. He saw families walking together. He saw children playing. He saw a civilization. Park Min-ae met him in the center of town. She wore her simple work clothes, not a uniform. She had chosen to dress this way intentionally. She wanted to show strength, but not aggression. "Welcome to New Horizon," she said calmly. "I am Park Min-ae, commander of this settlement." Vextal looked at her for a long time. "This is not possible," he said finally. "The council said this world was unsuitable for life. They said you would all be dead within a year." "The council was wrong," Park Min-ae said simply. "Karath 7 is difficult, but it is not impossible. Humans are good at adapting. Humans are good at finding ways to survive where others see only death." Vexatal and his team stayed for 3 days. They took videos and measurements. They tested the air. They examined the buildings and the crops. They interviewed many people, and slowly, their shock turned into wonder. What they had expected to document as a failure had become something else entirely. It had become a success story. When the scout ship left orbit and headed back toward Vexian space, it carried with it footage of New Horizon. It carried information about human achievement on a world where no one should have survived. And that information spread through the Vexian Empire like fire through dry grass. Within weeks, the news reached media channels across dozens of worlds. The story was simple but powerful. Humans, punishment, a dead world. And instead of death, they had built a town. Instead of failure, they had created hope. The Vexian population was fascinated. Young Vexians especially became obsessed with the story. Here was proof that their empire had made a mistake. Here was proof that humans were not weak or stupid. Here was proof that life could grow in places where the Vexian Council said it could not. On some worlds, humans who lived under Vexian control heard the news. They heard about New Horizon. They heard about Park Min-ae and her people. And they began to wonder why they should accept Vexian authority if humans could do something this amazing. The Council of Seven, the highest leaders of the Vexian Empire, watched this media explosion with growing anger. They had sent humans to Karath 7 to prove a point. They wanted to show that anyone who defied the collective would be destroyed. Instead, they had created symbols of human strength. They had created inspirations for rebellion. In the council chambers, voices grew loud and angry. Some members wanted to send a military fleet to Karath 7 to destroy New Horizon. They wanted to erase the proof of their failure. They wanted to show that the council's word was law. But other council members were more careful. They could see the bigger problem. The public was watching. Millions of Vexians were following the story. If the council destroyed New Horizon, they would not look strong. They would look cruel. They would look afraid. And they would be proved wrong again. Back on Karath 7, Park Min-ae was thinking. She understood that the arrival of the scout ship was the beginning of something new. The isolation of New Horizon had ended. The galaxy now knew they existed, and with that knowledge came opportunity. She called a meeting with her closest advisors. Kang Tae-o came with new ideas for larger-scale projects. Im Ji-woo came with research that proved Karath 7 could support even larger settlements. Choi Min-jun came with knowledge of the Krath War and how they could coexist peacefully with humans. And Lee Ha-na came with a wild idea. "We should tell them our story," Lee Ha-na said. "Not just through the scouts' recordings. We should tell our story directly. We should make them understand what we have done here." "How do we do that?" Kang Tae-o asked. Lee Ha-na smiled. It was the kind of smile that came before a daring plan. "We send them something they will never forget," she said. "We send them proof. We send them a message. We send them a tourism brochure." Park Min-ae understood immediately what Lee Ha-na meant. It was brilliant and crazy at the same time. The Vexian Council had sent them here to die. They had expected failure and suffering. And instead, New Horizon would show them something they had never imagined. It would show them that humans did not just survive on Karath 7. They had built something worth visiting. They had built something worth studying. They had built something worth celebrating. "Do it," Park Min-ae said. "Create the most beautiful brochure that the galaxy has ever seen. Show them what we have done. Show them what humans can do." Lee Ha-na nodded. Around the table, everyone understood. They were about to send a message that would change everything. They were about to turn their exile into victory. And they would do it not with weapons, but with the simple proof of human achievement. Outside, the orange sun was setting over New Horizon. The Krath War moved peacefully in the canyons beyond the settlement. Children played in the streets. Adults worked on new projects. This world, this Hellworld that was supposed to be a tomb, was becoming a beacon of hope, and the galaxy was starting to watch. Lee Ha-na and a young communications specialist named Baek Ji-ho worked together for weeks to create the brochure. They had limited technology available in New Horizon, but they had something more important. They had a real story to tell. Baek Ji-ho was a talented person with skills in photography and video. He spent days taking images of New Horizon from every possible angle. He filmed the greenhouses where food grew under special lights. He recorded Kang Taeo's team working on the mineral harvester, showing how they had taken a hostile world and learned to use its resources. He visited the science laboratory where Im Ji-woo studied the creatures and plants of Karath 7, capturing the excitement of discovery. But the most powerful images were the simple ones. A family eating dinner together in a home made of materials from this world. Children laughing while playing in a park that had been built by human hands. An old woman touching the leaves of a plant that provided both food and medicine. An engineer explaining to younger people how they had built a water purification system from creatures that lived in the acid lakes. Lee Ha-na wrote the text that would accompany these images. She did not write about survival. She did not write about suffering. She wrote about achievement. She wrote about the human spirit. She wrote about impossible dreams becoming real. The brochure began with these words: Karath 7. A world that was meant to be a prison became a paradise. Come visit New Horizon. Witness human innovation at its finest. See where humans did not just survive, but thrived. The brochure showed the agricultural zones with their perfect rows of crops. It showed the water purification systems that turned poison into life. It showed the buildings that had been designed to survive acid rain and volcanic activity. It showed the peaceful coexistence between humans and the Krathvor. It showed a society that had learned to work together instead of falling apart. Lee Ha-na wrote about the research breakthroughs that Im Ji-woo had made. She wrote about the new medicines that could be made from Karath 7's plants. She wrote about the architectural innovations that Kang Tae-o had developed. She wrote about the peaceful communication that Choi Min-jun had established with the Krathvor. Most importantly, she told the story of Park Min-ae. She told how a commander had arrived on a dead world with 5,000 desperate people and had transformed them into a civilization. She told how Park Min-ae had faced despair and chosen hope instead. She told how human leadership and vision could change everything. The brochure was not just words and pictures. It included video segments. It included scientific data showing that Karath 7 was becoming safer and more habitable with each year. It included interviews with regular people who lived in New Horizon, talking about their lives and their hopes. When the brochure was finished, Lee Ha-na and Baek Ji-ho presented it to Park Min-ae. She read every word. She looked at every image. And when she finished, she had tears in her eyes. "This is perfect," Park Min-ae said. "This tells the truth. This tells the world who we are." The brochure was sent out into the galaxy through communication channels that Park Min-ae had arranged. It went to news agencies. It went to universities. It went to government offices. It went to people who had the power to shape opinion and make decisions. And it went viral. The story of New Horizons spread like nothing the Vexian Empire had ever seen. Young people shared the brochure with each other. Teachers showed it to students. News networks discussed it endlessly. Progressive political organizations made it part of their campaigns. Scientists became fascinated by the research that the humans of New Horizon were conducting. In cities across the Vexian Empire, humans who had always been considered inferior started to feel different. They started to feel proud. They started to think that maybe they were not weak at all. Maybe they were strong. Maybe they deserved better treatment. On some worlds, humans began to organize. They demanded better living conditions. They demanded the right to work in better jobs. They demanded representation in government. And they all pointed to the same source of inspiration. They all said the same name: New Horizon. New Horizon, New Horizon. The Council of Seven watched in fury. 3 council members wanted to respond with military force. They wanted to wipe out New Horizon and end this propaganda nightmare. 2 council members were unsure what to do. They could see the problem but did not know how to solve it. And one council member, an old Vexian named Zohakara, was thinking about something different entirely. Zohakara had lived for 300 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had seen species conquered and controlled, and he knew something that younger council members did not understand. The Vexian collective had a problem that could not be solved with weapons. The problem was that the collective was wrong, and everyone knew it now. "We must talk to them," Zohakara said in the council chambers. "We must send an envoy to speak with Park Min-ai. We must find out what these humans really want." The other council members argued against this. To them, it looked like weakness. To them, it looked like surrender. But Zohakara was insistent, and his vote was needed to break the deadlock. So it was decided. An envoy would be sent to Karath 7, and the person who would lead that envoy was Vexatal, the scout who had first discovered New Horizon. He was one of the younger Vexians. He had seen with his own eyes what humans could do. He believed in the possibility of change. Back on Karath 7, Park Min-ai received news that an official Vexian envoy was coming. She felt nervous for the first time in years. What did they want? Did they want to destroy New Horizon? Did they want to take back the research? Or was something else happening? She called together her advisors. Kang Tae-oh, Im Ji-woo, Choi Min-jun, and Lee Ha-na all came to the command center. "They are coming to negotiate," Lee Ha-na said. She had always been the best at understanding other people. "The brochure worked. We have shown them that we are not weak. Now they want to talk about what comes next." "What should we ask for?" Choi Min-jun asked. "Should we demand our freedom?" Park Min-ai thought about this carefully. She had been a military commander for many years. She understood power and force. But she had learned something important during her years on Karath 7. Sometimes the most powerful thing was not to demand everything. Sometimes the most powerful thing was to offer a better way. "We will ask for partnership," Park Min-ai said. "We will show them that New Horizon is not a threat to the Vexian Empire. We will show them that humans and Vexians can work together. We will ask for autonomy, but not separation. We will ask for representation, but not dominance. We will offer them something they have never had before. We will offer them a way to be better." The brochure had done its work. It had changed the conversation. It had turned a story of punishment into a story of possibility. And now, for the first time, the Vexian Empire would have to listen to what humans had to say. In the weeks before the envoy arrived, Park Min-ai walked through New Horizon and looked at everything her people had built. The buildings that should have been tombs had become homes. The dead world had become alive, and a tourism brochure, of all things, had become the weapon that would change their world. Lee Ha-na walked beside her and smiled. "We did it," Lee Ha-na said. "We took the worst thing they could do to us and turned it into our greatest victory." Park Min-ai nodded. The Krathvor in the distance moved peacefully through their canyons. The crops grew in the greenhouses. The people of New Horizon continued their lives, not knowing that everything was about to change, not knowing that a simple tourism brochure had just started a revolution. Vextal arrived in an official Vexian diplomatic vessel. It was much larger than the scout ship, and carried not soldiers but officials and lawyers and people who understood treaties and government. Park Min-ai met him at the landing area with her full leadership team. Kang Tae-oh stood at her right hand. Lee Ha-na was at her left. Behind them were Im Ji-woo, Choi Min-jun, and the other leaders who had helped build New Horizon. Vextal stepped out of the vessel and looked at Park Min-ai with respect. They had never spoken before, but he had read every report about her. He had watched the videos that Baek Ji-ho had created. He understood that he was looking at one of the most important leaders in the galaxy. "Commander Park," Vextal said, and his voice had no weapons in it. "I come to speak about the future, not about the past." not about punishment or exile, about the future that your people and my people might create together. The negotiations took place in a conference room that Kang Teo had built in the heart of New Horizon. It was a large room with tables and chairs and windows that looked out over the settlement. For 3 days, they talked. Park Min-ae did not ask for everything. She did not make demands. Instead, she made proposals. She explained that New Horizon did not want to leave Karath 7. They had built a home here. They wanted to stay and continue what they had started. But she said that they wanted to do it as partners with the Vexian collective, not as prisoners. She proposed that humans would remain on Karath 7, establishing it as an autonomous settlement under Vexian protection. In exchange, New Horizon would share its scientific discoveries with the broader empire. The medicines that M.G. Wu had developed would be available to Vexian scientists. The architectural innovations that Kang Teo had created would help other worlds build settlements. The methods for peaceful coexistence with alien species that Choi Min-jun had discovered would teach the collective how to treat other peoples better. But Park Min-ae had one more proposal. This one was the most important and the most daring. "We want representation on the Council of Seven," Park Min-ae said. "Not to control the Empire, not to challenge Vexian authority, but to speak, to be heard, to remind the Council that they can sometimes be wrong, to show that when you listen to your people, when you work with them instead of against them, amazing things can happen." The Vexian officials looked shocked. This was not what they expected. They expected the humans to want independence. They expected demands for revenge. They expected anger and resentment. Instead, they were being offered cooperation. Vexital said nothing for a long time. He was young for a Vexian, but he was wise. He understood what Park Min-ae was really saying. She was not asking for power. She was asking for a voice. She was asking to be part of something bigger, and she was offering the Vexian Empire something it desperately needed. She was offering a chance to be better. "I will present this to the Council," Vextal said, "but I do not think they will refuse. You have made them look foolish, but you have not humiliated them. You have shown them that they were wrong. But you have not demanded punishment for that error. You have offered them a way to save face and move forward. That is very wise, Commander Park." After Vextal left to return to Vexian space, Park Min-ae's people gathered together. Not just the leaders, but regular people from the settlement. Park Min-ae explained what had happened. She explained what she had asked for, and she explained that they might say yes, or they might say no. But something unexpected happened. People gathered in the main plaza of New Horizon and they cheered. They cheered not because they had won a victory, but because they had shown their strength, not through weapons or aggression, but through the simple act of building something beautiful on a world that was supposed to be their tomb. However, not everyone was happy. Han Dae-jung, the military officer who had always opposed Park Min-ae's peaceful approach, came to the command center angry and frustrated. "You should have demanded more," Han Dae-jung said loudly. "You should have demanded an end to Vexian control. You should have demanded our independence. We could have fought them. We could have won." Park Min-ae looked at him calmly. "We already won," she said. "We won the moment we survived. We won when we built New Horizon. We won when the galaxy saw what we were capable of. We did not need to fight. We needed to show that we were worthy of respect. That is what we did." Han Dae-jung left angry, but his voice was becoming quieter. More and more people understood what Park Min-ae was doing. She was not asking for revolution. She was asking for recognition, and recognition, once given, could not be taken back. 3 weeks later, word came from the Vexian Empire. The Council of Seven had voted on Park Min-ae's proposal. The vote was 4-3. 4 members voted yes. 3 members voted no. But 4 votes were enough. The humans of New Horizon would be granted autonomy. They would remain on Karath 7 under Vexian protection, but with the right to govern themselves. The scientific discoveries from New Horizon would be shared with the Empire, and a human representative would be added to the Council of Seven. When Park Min-ae heard the news, she went to the highest point in New Horizon and looked out over the settlement. Kang Tao's buildings stood strong against the orange sky. Im Ji-woo's scientific equipment worked in the laboratories. Choi Min-jun's communication systems allowed humans and Krathvor to coexist peacefully. And Lee Ha-na's words, captured in that simple brochure, had changed the world. In the canyons beyond the settlement, the Krathvor moved peacefully. They did not understand politics or councils or treaties, but they understood that the humans were safe. They understood that New Horizon would continue to grow. They understood that peace was possible. Park Min-ae thought about the moment the transport ship had arrived at this world. She thought about 5,000 desperate people stepping out into an orange sky and broken mountains. She thought about how easy it would have been to give up, how easy it would have been to surrender to despair. But humans did not work that way. Humans found hope in impossible places. Humans built things when they were supposed to be destroying them. Humans created beauty in the face of ugliness. The Vexian collective had sent humanity to Karath 7 expecting them to die. Instead, humanity had sent back a tourism brochure, and that brochure had changed the Vexian Empire. As the three orange suns set over the horizon, Park Min-ae made a decision. She would step down as commander. She had guided New Horizon through its most difficult years. She had made it real. She had made it possible. Now it was time for others to lead into the future. She would become the historian of New Horizon. She would write down this story so that future generations would remember how they had done the impossible. Lee Ha-na came to find her on the high point. "We did it," Lee Ha-na said simply. Park Min-ae nodded. "We did," she agreed. "And the hardest part is just beginning. Now we have to prove that we can work with the Vexians. Now we have to show that partnership is possible. Now we have to build something that benefits both our peoples." "We can do it," Lee Ha-na said. "We have already done much harder things." And she was right. They had done much harder things. They had turned a punishment into a success. They had transformed a Hellworld into a home. They had sent a tourism brochure when they were supposed to send their bones back to the Vexian collective. The story of New Horizon was far from over. In many ways, it was just beginning.